I'm almost completely surrounded by butterflies. Like, look at this, right above my head. So, I am hiking the Foothills Trail right now, coming down to Laurel Fork Creek Falls, or Laurel Fork Falls. I am about 2.8 miles in, and what I've noticed so far is that you could pretty much walk Laurel Fork Creek Road and make it all the way down here without too much trouble. So I think that pretty much either one of them, whether it's the Foothills Trail or the road, will probably bring you to the same place. Things that I forgot, as you might notice, I'm carrying a stick, but something that I forgot, which I cannot believe, is my trekking poles, which I almost never leave home without, because usually they're in the back of my car. I switched vehicles, and now I am in a all-wheel drive Honda CR-V. So I didn't put the trekking poles in there. Not to worry though. Like I said, I'm already almost 3 miles in. Got about 1 more mile to go before we see this waterfall. So let me tell you about it. Laurel Fork Falls Trail or hike is something like 9.6 miles total. It's out and back. It can be accessed by Foothills Trail. We actually camped at the Laurel Fork Falls boat access off of Jocassee when we were doing the Foothills Trail. So it's kind of like we're coming back to the same area, which is really cool. And here's a nice suspension bridge. Now, if you hate going across sketchy bridges, let me just tell you, this may not be the hike for you. But look at this scenery. Okay, look at this scenery. If you're not a spider person, you probably ain't gonna like that one either. But every one of these bridges, let me show you, is completely slippery. So you have to use caution when you cross these bridges. There are some that have 1 board, some have 3 boards, some have no boards in places, so you got to be careful. Now, this is also the area where I was walking along eating trail mix, and as we crossed one of the bridges, I saw the biggest black bear I've ever seen down here. So those are things that, you know, you just have to be aware of when you get down here. As you can see, it's pretty dark down here in places. We were supposed to get some very bad rain today because there are some tropical storms coming into the Gulf and actually hitting Texas right now. So we were supposed to have rain until 10 o'clock, and that really wasn't that bad and has already passed. So I'm down here enjoying the beautiful solitude. When you're coming down the Foothills Trail, a white blaze means you're on the trail, and you may see two blazes on the same tree. If you see that, it means it's time to make a turn. You have to look around and see whether it's left or right to keep you on the trail. The Foothills Trail is pretty well marked. There was only one place where we kind of got off track when we did the Foothills Trail section hike. As long as you keep an eye out for the white blazes, it is pretty well marked out here. The Virginia Hawkins Falls Trail kind of collides right into this trail. They kind of cross over at one point, way towards the beginning. Now, one thing that a friend of mine at church came up to me and said, "Man, we followed your Sid's Falls video and it took us right down to Sid's Falls. We were able to do that with the family, and we just loved that it was very detailed and told us kind of exactly where to go, things to look out for." So that was about one of the coolest things ever, was knowing that I was able to help someone get out and spend time with their family. That is just so cool to me. So here is a sign. This says, "Welcome to Laurel Fork Creek Valley." Pretty cool. So we're just gonna proceed on. Right here is a nice red fire road gate. As you can see, on the side of the gate is a white blaze right there to tell you to keep on going, and you will be still on the Foothills Trail. So we're gonna keep on keeping on. But like I said, it was very cool to have somebody watching and following along and actually getting out to enjoy the woods with the family. So hopefully I can help a lot more people, because that's just cool to me, being able to help share this, like all of this out here. Here, this is the Laurel Fork campsite. Okay, so we're not far away from our destination, because we're looking for Laurel Fork Falls. So it's pretty close by. Now, here is one thing that I learned doing the Art Loeb trail. I'm probably going to put a video together that details a lot of the things that I learned doing the Art Loeb. One of which was remembering to put your dadgum phone on airplane mode, because otherwise the battery dies super fast, because the stupid phone is looking for signal and will kill your battery almost within, like, not even like an hour, 2 hours. So bear that in mind. GPS will work even though you're in airplane mode, so you can still use all trails to track yourself. One of the other things that I learned is to over prepare. Even though it's summertime, we didn't really take any cold weather gear Only some, hold on, this says Laurel Fork Falls campsite. That's where we camped on the Foothills Trail. So it says only 0.9 left. So I'm like almost there. This is, as you can see from the sign, Dawkins Flat campsite. Check this little thing out right here. What an idyllic little campsite this is. Wow, that is gorgeous. Sorry, I digress. We didn't take any cold weather gear, but even in the summertime, when you're soaking wet, we found out it would definitely be worth having a jacket, preferably fleece, that you can wear under your poncho, because it was soaking wet every single day. That's something that you want to take with you. Number one. Number two, making fire in the rain is something that you want to practice. I'm going to show you, once I get down here to the campsite, I'm going to show you some things that I got because of that hike, to make sure that we don't run into that issue no more. Getting a fire started, we should be able to get a fire started anytime, because drying things out in that forest is almost impossible without fire. This is Laurel Fork Falls campsite. There's a little sign right here that says camping area. And I actually think you have to go across this bridge to the campsite, which I think is over there. Foothills Trail goes up that way and keeps going around. So I'm just taking you across over here to show you kind of what it looks like. The waterfall is supposed to be, I think it's off to our right, but I'm going to take a second to show you this. Look at this. Just absolutely incredible. Right over there along the water is the Laurel Fork campsite, and here, just steps away, I finally got to where it says Laurel Fork Falls Overlook, 200 feet. So we're gonna go right behind the sign and take a look right here and see what it looks like. Look at that. Oh my lord, that is incredible. We're not actually seeing the water yet, but we're right over the top of it. Oh man, look at this. You can see the waterfall down through the woods. That is crazy. I'm sure we could get a little bit closer, but how sketchy is it gonna be? Over there you can see Lake Jocassee right through the woods right there. Let's see if we can get closer. We'll go to the overlook and not scare the home viewers. It's very cool to finally be here. As you can see right behind me, look at these rocks. It's just like a sheer cliff face here in the Jocassee Gorges. Absolutely incredible. You just can't get better than this. Now, from what I've gathered, you can only get, there's a whole nother waterfall section that's down there, okay? From what I gather, you can only get to that from the water. So if you're kayaking in or boating in, you'll be able to see the bottom section and the top section. But what we're looking at right now is the top section of Laurel Fork Falls. Let me turn you around. Definitely worth it. So what I'm going to do is go down to, there's another boat access campsite, and show you the same waterfall from a little ways down that way, so you'll be able to see how tall it really is. And we're going to be seeing it from a long ways away, but you can still see the whole waterfall. But it's really cool to be back down in here. Now, I am probably like 5 miles in so far and have not seen nobody, which I kind of expected. Usually though, on the foothills, this is kind of like the tougher, longer section of the foothills, so I may not see anybody the whole time. I'm definitely okay with that. Another thing that I learned about that you may want to keep in mind, a little while ago, a little ways back, I was talking to you about things that I learned that we should have from the Art Loeb trail. And one of those things, just learned about it, is Hot Hands makes a adhesive body warmer, which is pretty cool. So I have a couple of those. Hot Hands body warmer. After a big hike like the Art Loeb, you might be sticking that body warmer on yourself like a like one of those pain patches, you know, like trying to get rid of your cramps and screaming pain. But when it comes to warming you up, I think it would be very, very handy out there, even in summer, because I couldn't believe how cold we were, actually shivering in the summertime. Alright, so now, enough of that detour stuff. We're getting back on trail. So let's get back down here to the campsite. So this is where you get to the Laurel Fork boat access. It's called the Boat Access Spur Trail, 0.3 miles. And this is where we had our camp when we were doing the Foothills Trail section hike. You may remember that from a previous video. And right over there is the campsite. As you can see, there's a lot of wood around here that you can use for firewood. You just kind of gotta go grocery shopping and hack it down. So I'm gonna come down here. We're gonna pass the campsite for this just a minute, because I'm going to show you how you can see the waterfall. It's going to be a little speck in the distance, but it shows you what you would be able to see if you came in on a boat to this exact spot. You could actually come in to the base of the waterfall. Now, the last time I was here, it was 27 degrees, and here's a little waterfall that I took a picture of. At that time, it was cold as could be. So, it's not very far. You just come down here. This is where the boat access is. You could probably just pull the boat right up here, like a pontoon or something, and just come right onto the trail. One thing I would highly recommend after today is put your dadgum bug net over your face, because good lord, there's been bugs out the yin yang today. There's a bunch of boater people down there and jet boaters, but this is the access right here, and it looks like the sign is knocked over, but let's see if I can show it to you. It's right through there. It's going to be hard to see. It was quite a bit easier to see when it was fall, but you can see it right through the trees right there. So I thought about getting an inflatable boat and getting in here and paddling it through to actually get to the bottom of the falls. That might be something I might try and do later. But that's the remains of the sign that used to be here. As you can see, that boat says Jocassee Lake Tours. Absolutely phenomenal out here. Like, it just takes your breath away. It really does. Alright, so I'm gonna go back up here to the campsite and do something that I almost never do, and that is take a break and cook something up. So here we go. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it is so cool to come back to a place where you've been before, but now have so much more new knowledge of the woods, of hiking, of equipment. It's just so cool to be in the same spot and now have just a better understanding of this whole area that you've been here. You kind of know it inside and out, and also having learned so much more compared to when you were here the first time. So I'm going to show you one of those things that I've learned from a channel called Corporal's Corner. It's very cool. One of those things that you're like, well, how ingenious is that? But it kind of shows you what I'm talking about, that you're able to learn something and then go out in the field and actually use it and try it out. So let me show you this. So here we have a ordinary tree. So what I'm going to do is I have a piece of cord in my pocket right here, and on that cord I've already tied what's called a bowline knot, and it's basically a loop. We're just going to take that, we're gonna throw that loop around the tree. Then we just got to get us a piece of wood. And now we have our stick. On the end of this string, we're going to tie a marlin spike hitch. Which just consists of a loop. Turn this way, guys. Marlin spike hitch consists of a loop. And this, you pull the loop on itself, and you pull the loop through. And take this, stick it through there, and tighten the spring. Now, you would think that's some kind of weird pull-up bar, but watch. Now your backpack is hanging on the tree by itself. So, remember when I was talking about with learning new skills and then getting to put them to use out here. So, real quick, I'm going to cook up something and show you how we do that. So, the first thing you're going to need is a handy dandy fuel canister. Then you're going to want to have one of these. It's a little burner that goes onto that canister. That's going to be your little micro-sized barbecue grill. Okay, the first time that you do this, you're going to think, oh no, I'm going to blow myself up. It's like a bomb. It's really not. It's just like a tiny propane bottle. So, you just turn your fuel on and crank it up. I like to keep all the stuff that I'm going to need inside of the pot. Okay? So, what we normally do is we don't put the food inside the pot. You just use this for heating up your water. Then you just pour it into whatever that you're cooking. So it makes it a little bit easier for cleaning this stuff up. So I'm just going to take off my Sawyer Mini. We're going to dump in some water, swish it around a little bit, and dump it out. Then pour us some water in here. Something like that. Then we're going to get to warming that up. If you put your lid on, it'll go a lot faster. So now we got to go down here to the water and fill this bottle back up. So I've done this before in the same place, and it's very easy. You just get over here and you dunk it in. So now what I've done is filled up with some dirty water, and I'm using the Sawyer, like I said, mini water filter. I'm using it as a straw, basically like a life straw. We're just going to cram it in there, and now it filters the bottle without even having to like squeeze it through the bag or any of that kind of thing. So we're ready to go, basically. So in here, this is dehydrated Alpine Air Santa Fe black beans and rice. What we need to do is open this up, and there is usually a thing called a oxygen absorber. Oh my lord, smells amazing. Oxygen absorber. Sometimes there's two inside of there. And the first time I did this, I forgot to take it out. It does not hurt you, so don't be too scared if you forget and leave it in there. So we need to pour some boiling water, 2 cups of boiling water in there, and let it sit for 10 to 12 minutes. This is a very handy thing that you're going to need. Walmart has a set that is plastic, has knife, fork, and spoon, and it's all attached to a little ring, but I kind of like this idea, all having it in one. While we're waiting for those delicious vittles to get fixed up, I wanted to do a little experiment. So I'm going to grab this piece of wood right here, and on the back of this Gerber Machete Junior, there's like a saw on the back, and I want to take a second and do a little timing experiment to see how long it takes to cut using this versus that. Because out here in the woods, a lot of times you don't have all day long to be cutting stuff and making a fire. So we're going to conduct an experiment. So first we're going to use this. So there's with that one. Now this wood is wet. So now, like I said, on the back up here, there's also a saw. Wow. The set, or the angle of the teeth on the back of this saw they clear out the wood chips much faster than this one, even though this one is supposedly designed to cut on the push and the pull stroke. It did seem to clear the kerf, which is the little groove that the saw is in, as well as this one. Now, we're going to compare that to using the actual blade. Now, it seemed like it took a little bit more work with the blade, but there's just something a little bit more exciting about just chopping it, you know what I mean? Looks like my water is boiling like crazy. Take that off of there. Turn off our heat. So now we're gonna put our heat into the bag. We're supposed to stir it up and then let it sit for 10 to 12 minutes. What I'm gonna do is clean my hands because we're over there hacking on the lumber, and we need to clean up just a little bit. So first I'm going to use the water in the creek over there, and then I'll get a wipe out of the bag and we'll be ready to eat something. But one thing that slowed us down when we were on the Art Loeb was wood procurement, or basically finding something to burn. And what I would recommend, I think, between those camp saws right there and that machete, I would take the machete. I think it's going to be the one I carry. That's only because it has a saw in it, built in, also has the blade, and the little small folding saw, although it's good, may not be the best thing in case you had to fight something, such as a bear came into your camp or something. I feel like I would really like having a machete around, just in case. So I put my new Corona mask on, but I just think this is the coolest thing in the world. So I've carried a compass since I started hiking and never once pulled it out. I didn't even realize that there is a magnifying glass on it for starting fires using a magnifying glass. So I decided, look, I'm going to pull this thing out. I'm going to start learning how to use it, and you can pretty much tell your position anywhere. And if you have a map, you can use the map and the compass together to tell exactly where you are and which way you need to go. So, first time ever, I've watched a few videos on using a compass and land navigation. So I printed out the map from All Trails and I used the compass. Earlier, I was going on a bearing of, or a heading of 40 degrees. And so I said, well, let me check right here, because on the map, during this part of the trail, I should be taking about 100 degrees for the bearing. So when I orient this to north and I look at my needle, I'm going almost exactly 100 degrees. That's pretty cool, to be able to know which way you're going, looking at the map. Usually I rely on All Trails on my phone, but one thing that the Art Loeb taught me was your phone is going to go dead, and you need to know how to use a compass that does not rely on batteries or anything else. So I came home and immediately started learning how to actually use the compass. So right now we're on a bearing of 100 degrees, and that is going to take us most of the way. That bearing, or the direction that we're going, is called an azimuth. And then going that way behind me is what's known as the reverse azimuth. So just substitute the other direction. But it's pretty cool. I will definitely be learning more about orienteering and map reading and those kind of things. You can actually use the compass and the map to tell your exact position, and then from there you'll know exactly which direction to go in, regardless of what's in your way. So if you know that there's a mountain right over there, you can just go up it, over it, or around it, and still know exactly where you are. Pinpoint where you are on that map. To me, that's very cool, and going to be very handy when sometimes, even using a phone, you might get turned around. I'd rather rely on something that doesn't need batteries or anything else, and I can just pull my map out, put them together, and be able to tell where I'm going. This here, I would imagine, is what some people would call a prayer bridge, because you gotta pray you make it across this thing in one piece. If you look right there, that board is about to break completely, and this one as well. So let me just tell you, on the Foothills Trail you will cross about 450 million bridges. There's bridges on top of bridges leading to other bridges. Never seen so many bridges ever on one trail, and most of them are very, very slippery. So right there I'm seeing two blazes on the same tree. That means look for a turn. So here we are, we're turning left. So far today I've seen the boater people, but I wouldn't consider them to be on trail. Then I saw one trail runner, and just passed two guys and their son. So it might have been a dad and grandpa and son out here enjoying the wilderness. The boy looked to be maybe about 12, maybe 13 maybe. So if I was gonna say, is it possible to bring your children out here? Unless they are hardcore Rambo types, I'd probably steer away from that. As far as elevation gain, it's not really that hard, technical of terrain, but it's a little bit involved, a little bit long. So you're looking at about 10.1 miles total out and back. Like I say, it's not difficult, it's just long. If you were going to hike down to Laurel Fork Creek campsite, that might be doable with kids, because you would have, like a break in the middle. Now, Virginia Hawkins Falls is also off this same trail. That is one that is very easy to do with kids. You could probably do it with kids in the 5 to 6 year old range, and they would be able to navigate that safely and everything. Out here, like with any South Carolina trail, you will want to thoroughly submerge yourself in bug spray. Now, the reason you want to do that is not because of mosquitoes. It's because of ticks. So you don't want to get Lyme's disease, so you better have some bug spray on. If there are any mosquitoes, I could be on the moon and within 10 minutes I would be looking like a Capri Sun after recess. So mosquitoes would be something you would use spray for, but they're not really out here. So one thing that we learned on the Art Loeb trail was that I took a bug net for my hammock setup and didn't even use it. I noticed that there really wasn't any mosquitoes out there to speak of, but as soon as you turn your headlamp on, you'll find every moth this side of the East Coast. Someone on Facebook in a hiking group started to kind of badger people, I guess you would call it, and give them a hard time for saying that a trail was easy. So they said they did not find it to be easy, and that they had health issues, and when they went down it, they did not find it to be easy at all. And how dare ye say that it was an easy trail? So that we need to be careful when we say that a trail is easy or not. Now, when it comes to reviews of these trails and deciding whether you should do one or not, I will usually tell you, oh, that was pretty easy. Or I'll tell you, that was a beast. Or, good Lord, that was a monster. Okay? Any of those two last words will indicate that if I thought it was a monster, you're gonna be hating life if you go down there and you're not prepared or accustomed to how hard hiking is. So, Virginia Hawkins Falls, not really that bad. Okay, it's not something the average person could make it down there just fine. You know, you would want to take water and something to eat with you, but you're not gonna die. This one, on the other hand, it's not hard, but it's very long to most average people. If I was starting out, I wouldn't even try to do this 10-miler by myself. It's something that you want to work up to. Or, here's two options. Number one, slow down. Okay. Right now, I've been keeping a 2.6 mile an hour pace, which indicates that to me that this trail is relatively easy. If that number gets down to say 1.8, that means either we're going straight up for about 6 miles or straight down. Okay, so that slows that number down. So you would need to be prepared. If that's my pace, the normal person just starting out is going to be probably half of that. Okay? So, number one, if you feel like it's getting too hard, you need to slow down. Especially when you first start out. You're not trying to set any world records or anything like that. Just take it easy. Number two, if you feel that that dude is on crack, and that is not an easy trail. Like he told me, you can always turn around, right? So those are two options that you can do, because no one is really forcing you to get out here and hike these trails. You have to take it at your own pace. You need to also keep in mind that you don't have to complete the whole thing. You can tap out and say, you know, I need a little more preparation, so I'm going to come back and try this one again with, you know, once I get built up, or once I get some more equipment or whatever. So I will usually tell you if a trail is easy, moderate, and I usually go most of the time with the recommendations from All Trails. It will usually let you know what kind of trail it is. Keep in mind, you always have to take it with a grain of salt, that when someone is a seasoned hiker, they've been out here, they've done, I don't even know, I think I'm probably close to 200 miles out here. You have to take it with a grain of salt, that if I say it's easy, I just have to kind of guess that the normal person, when I first started out, would be able to do it or not. So that's just my opinion on whether a trail is easy or not. We're finally back to Virginia Hawkins Falls campsite. Right here behind me, you'll see that there is a fire ring with a grill attachment. You'll see there's benches there, and also there's a site there. There's actually several sites down here. This right there, that bridge takes you to Virginia Hawkins Falls. There's a sign here that tells you where all the different campsites are, and also there's a sign up there on that tree that tells you that there's a bear bag cable over there somewhere. Okay, look behind me very quickly. That's the fire road that leads you down here. So like I said, from the little parking space down here, it's pretty easy. You're walking this fire road all the way down. Once you get past this point, though, to go down to Laurel Fork Falls, it's a little more bumpy. And finally, my little baby trail rig. Whew. What I'm going to try and do, as you can see right here, it is very handy out here to have either four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. This is specifically why I bought this little vehicle right here. I had to do some work to it to get it trail ready. Not to say that you can't make it up here without a four-wheel drive. It is very handy to have it. When I came up here this morning, it was very, very foggy, and there was a lot of water on that dirt road coming up here. So like I say, four-wheel drive and or all-wheel drive makes it very handy. So if you are addicted to anything hiking like I am, I'm going to put two videos up to your right. They're going to show you some tips and tricks for hiking in this great state of ours, South Carolina.